comes, accepting it, and then now transforming it into something positive becomes the strength of our discussion for tonight. Pardon with me, I might not be able to share screen. I have my own few challenges that is limiting me, but I believe it's going to be thorough. And one very key thing is anytime there's an opportunity for learning, personally, even when I read books, I carry my jota along so that any key thing that I'm picking, I'll be able to write it down and take a note afterwards to review it. So in case you're part of this session, I will urge you, if in case you're using your mobile phone, turn on to your notes on your phones or your tabs on your laptop screens. And if you can get a pen and your jota or personal study book, please take some notes. And then if you have any question during the session, you can write it down. Towards the end of it or at the midpoint, we will be answering some of the questions that might come up. To take us further now, as we are starting the discussions, like I said, the topic is fear to success. Discover how to transform fear into motivation and success in business. As a way of introduction, first of all, we need to look at this. What is fear on its own? Right? What does it mean for someone to be afraid? Most times, people connote fear to weakness. In reality, it might not be as it is, right? But fear, mostly people sees it also as an enemy. But the fact remains that fear is not the enemy. It is a compass pointing you towards opportunity. Because that thing you're afraid of is actually something good. You are afraid of because inwardly you did not find yourself as a match or as a reactive potential to that thing you're afraid of. That's why most time when fear befalls us, it is the weakness in us that first of all manifest. But anytime or at any given opportunity, that fear of anything in life avail itself towards us. But once we understood our strength and our potential, and we know that that thing that looks like fearful to us, we are stronger than it, then we become strong and build strength towards that thing. So it's important for all of us to understand that fear is not actually the enemy, but rather it is what put us to the direction of opportunity. As a business owner or as an entrepreneur, you must at a point in order in your business or your growth path experience that thing. It might be fear of failure, fear of loss, like normal business profit and loss, fear of rejection from customers, fear of this or other. All of that, it is giving you an opportunity to check inwardly. What are those things that are putting me to fear about this business? And what can I do to mitigate it? There's another opposite part of every fear. Anytime you're experiencing fear, is because there's another opposite side would have been the opportunity that we are not actually looking at in general, right? So it's very, very important to understand that fear on its own, it's not our enemy, but rather, like they said, is false evidence appearing real about that individual. There's a common saying about fear, FEAR, fake or evidence of something that is not appearing as the reality of it. But because from the point of where we are looking at that situation, that event, or that thing, it makes us become afraid of it. So, but in reality, it's not as it is. And now, talking about us as a business, what is the real nature of fear? Right? Now, understand this fear is a natural response to uncertainty or threats. Mark these two words uncertainty and threats. Uncertainty is if I should start a business of beverage at single market, will it move or not? Now, the uncertainty about that question you're asking yourself makes you to become afraid and might even give you a drawback not to even start. Or you went to Singa, for example, and you're trying to rent a shop and they ask you, what business are you going to do here? And you said, I want to be selling rice. And then they'll tell you, if you start selling rice here, be rest assured People like Mr. A and Mr. B that are the key drivers of rise in this market will match you down and you can't do nothing about it. You see, that's a threat. Now, it is a natural state that at the beginning of any business or any transaction or activity, one might develop this fear because of what? One, uncertainty. Or what? The threat that might come from either the vicinity or the scenario that might arise from that initiative. But that notwithstanding, understanding that it is a natural state of response to that activity in particular, so it is not actually in the negative perspective. No, but rather, when something is uncertain, it means there's another certain part of it. When something is appearing like a threat to you, that means there's a part of it that is expecting your reaction. And as an individual, if you must turn your fear against uncertainty and threat, you must find the opposite of these two things. What is certain? Certainty is if you start a business and you put your product in a well-defined manner, competitively, excellent in quality, tailored towards the reactive customers, automatically some certainty will come. People will go for product that matches their demand for one reason or the other. There are a lot of things that propel people's intention towards buying a product or towards a service. There's a common saying about top of mind. What comes to people's mind when they think about beverage? What comes to people's mind when they think about clothing line? What comes to people's mind when they think about household and consumables? It is a common thing, like a common saying, noodles is not something as Indomie. Indomie is a brand, noodles is the product, right? And then Maclean, for instance. Maclean is a toothpaste, but Maclean is a brand. Toothpaste is that very, very product. But people's perception has already adopted that Maclean is every toothpaste is Maclean and every noodles is Indomie. Why? That's a top of mind. And if, for instance, one needs to start a business that will compete against those things, it is uncertain at the beginning if you're going to beat them up. But if you understand one certainty of the product you're bringing into the system, your fear will drop. What does it mean? If you must compete with any brand, no matter how far they've gone in the market, there's always a weakness that can be in how they execute or tailor their product to the consumers. So instead of it to look at they call it the big three sometimes. I think today we have the Cherry, Golden Penny, Dangote also, and then Indomie. Those guys are the big four in noodles in the market. And then you are trying to start up your own in Kano, for example, because you understand how to mix the ingredients to produce noodles, and you bought the machines from China, and you're afraid to go into the market, and you're becoming very afraid. But I'll tell you something, there's always one thing that makes people buy product or service. And all you need to do is to discover that, make your plan, and execute it. Fear is a drawback. Fear on its own is a drawback. But it is not actually drawing you back, but rather you stepping back. When fear arises or comes up on you, what you need to do is to react, to understand that that thing I'm afraid of, what is that thing? And why am I even afraid of it? And then once you understand, develop a reaction to it. In physics, there's a saying that I think in Newton's law, for every action, there's opposite and equal reaction. For every fear, there shall be equal and opposite reaction to that fear. And what is that? Reality. Fear and reality. Fear is looking at the thing as if they are real, whereas they are not. And then reacting with the reality makes you put the fact in check and in place to understand that, yes, indeed, that thing that I'm actually afraid of, it's not as it is. But rather, that first step that you take into that reality against your fears makes you to understand that fear is not a reality, but rather is a natural response to uncertainty and threat. Secondly, fear can hold us back from achieving our goals. How? Like I explained earlier, fear looks like a drawback, but no, fear is actually a setback by self. It is when you accept fear that you hold yourself back. Fear does not hold your hand, does not hold your leg, does not keep you on bed. It is you that decided to lie on bed. It is you that decided not to take an action. It is you that decided to stay where you are and not face your fear. So, fear on its own can hold us back from achieving our goals. But if we decide to face our fears, automatically we are going to conquer it. And thirdly, fear can also be a motivation if harnessed accurately. Now, there are different ways that people respond to fear. In HR or in a common corporate environment, there's a line of words they usually ask employees: fear of failure, is it a motivation or a demotivation? And commonly, I personally have experienced people giving me this response that fear of failure is a demotivation to them. I said, okay, what do you mean when you say fear of failure is a demotivation to you? Because at that moment, because you are afraid of failing, does that make you to now relax and fail completely? That's the perspective that people don't usually look at it. The reality is, when fear dawns on you, when it comes on you, what you're supposed to do is to react. And how do you react? To become motivated against that fear. Remember, is the false evidence appearing real. It is false on its own that wants to be real. That means there's a real one about it. One of my mentor has said this in one of his quotes, that 1 plus 1 in the morning is 2. 1 plus 1 in the night is 2. 1 plus 1 in Nigeria is 2. 1 plus 1 in China is also 2. That means reality and fact is not a respecter of time or location, but rather is a fact that can be accepted, adopted, and be put into practice by everybody, anytime, anywhere. That false evidence that is appearing real, what is the reality about it that has worked somewhere? Most times, when that false evidence appears to us, we either accept it the way it is or we react to it with the reality. Because when that fear comes, for instance, if you're a salesman in a sales environment and you're given a target, and if you know you've put your plans appropriately, you've set your target, for example, in a month, you're supposed to do 100 of a product. Automatically, what is expected of you every week is, let's say, 25. So that by 4 weeks, you've done 100. And then by week 1, you're able to do only 5 out of your 25 target of that 1 week. Now, at that moment, some people begin to develop fear of achieving their target for that month. Maybe you're already placed on probation. And because you're on probation, you become afraid. What if I didn't deliver? What if I lose my job? What if nobody wants to buy? What should I do? And some people, they'll start holding back. Instead of becoming creative, instead of now doing something that they were not doing, instead of them learning and relearning to unlearn some of the fact that some of the realities they know that didn't work for them, they will dwell in that anticipated failure due to failure of week 1 against 4 weeks of the month. And you see that on their own, they become lazy, they become adamant. They will be present, but they won't be productive. So such a thing, when it happens, automatically there's a need for one to react. You're supposed to do 25 in week 1, and you're able to do only 20, and you're already afraid. What if it didn't work? But what happened to 3 weeks? There are people that can still deliver that same 100 in 3 weeks. So let's assume what didn't work for you in week 1, now you develop another model opposite to that might work. Maybe you were doing a door-to-door sales in week 1 and it didn't work for you. Try business to business, a third-party sales, and it might work for you. You need to discover it. So fear can also be what? A motivation if harnessed correctly. Because I understand one pattern in life that I've tried to learn on my own. Responsibility brings the best in people. Challenges pushes people, and then fear makes people to grow stamina and strength. Mostly when you are intentional and decisive about success. Anytime those challenges arises, if you have a purpose and a goal, naturally you will discover that you are dismissing new strengths, new ideas. Your brain becomes more functional. Your IQ rate is increasing because at any given challenge, your mind thinks of 7 solutions to that one challenge. Instead of that one challenge to hold you back and put you down, rather, your mind, your brain, and your body entirely is discovering new ways that you can even do better than the challenge that it appears to you. That is what changing false evidence to what? To reality in such a way that the opposite reaction you will give it will make the required result. There's a saying also, fear has 2 meanings: forget everything and run, or face everything and rise. Anytime fear comes to us, it pushes us backward. But now, should you forget everything and run, or you face everything and rise? This is a quote by Zig Ziglar. Why did he mention these two things? Because fear on its own is not a reality. Fear on its own is a state of mind that we perceive about something, either because we are informed negatively or because we are not informed entirely. That's why there's a common saying, information is power. That power is not energy power, but ability to react or respond in a right manner against any situation or event. That is the fact there. Naturally, when the fear comes, it puts you in that 2 points, either to forget everything and run, or to face everything and rise. And once you are informed of how to react to that situation, you'll be able to respond to it and rise. For instance, if I should give an example, now this is not about a business. I'll just give a scenario of how fear usually grips us. Let's assume you're driving. You know how the nature of the security of the country is, and you had a flat tire in a lonely place. Normally, people will start thinking of what can happen. Will I be attacked by armed robbers here? Will I be attacked by the bandits here? What if nobody can fix my car? What if I stayed here till late night, animals come from the bush and then do one thing or the other? Most times, some people can develop that fear thinking is the reality. But I will tell you something. The reality there is a flat tire is not the end of the road. Spare tire is in the boot. Instead of you to be thinking of the fears of what can happen, rush to the boot, remove your tire, try the spare tire, and drive on the required kilometer per hour speed to be driven with that spare tire and get out of that place. The time you would have spent thinking of what could have happened to you, if you stay in a positive mind and react to it by doing the thing that is factual, removing the spare tire and changing it, you find out you will develop more strength and motivation to even do it quicker and faster than how you would do it if you're afraid. Fear makes us weak. Fear doesn't give us that strength. Once we embrace fear, we become weak and slow. But once we resist fear, we develop strength and stamina against that thing that appears to us. Right? So we have it from Zig Ziglar that fear has 2 meanings: forget everything and run, or face everything and rise. So understanding fear is the first step to overcoming it. So as we go further, let's try to explore how to harness fear to our own advantage now, right? Identifying and challenging fear on its own. When it comes to us, we challenge it back. So how are we going to do it? One, identify your fears and acknowledge them. From my introduction, if you recall, I've stated this thing clearly, right? Fear is a natural state of responding to uncertainty and threats. From my introduction, if you recall, that's what I said. Is a natural state of responding to what? Uncertainty and threats. Now, if we must overcome these fears and harness it to our own advantage, one, we must identify our fears and acknowledge them. I also said we are human. If anyone said he is without fear, in the reality of it, you are not being real to yourself. We all have experienced fears, or we will experience fears. But then, how we understand it and react to it becomes where we develop our strength. Now, if you must identify your fears and then with that understanding acknowledge them, that acknowledgement is a reaction. Is the reaction on what? On the fears. Because information makes us understand something. You cannot understand what you are not well informed about it. So, if we are to identify that thing we are fearful of in business, mostly people can be afraid of failure in general in business. That failure can be failure of revenue, attrition from people leaving your company because of one thing or the other, or customers backing out of buying your product after phase use, and so on and so forth. It is important that first of all, we understand that those are our fears. And once you identify that these are the fears that might come to us on this business, acknowledge them. If you are not afraid of anything, like I said, you are not living in reality. Accept that you can be fearful. Accept that thing that is making you afraid. Acknowledge it because it will help you to actually understand it better. By assumption of saying there's nothing that gets me scared again, I will face it the way it comes. It's not understanding. That's just being responsive. But reacting is actually a way of understanding as it is. Secondly, challenge negative thoughts and reframe them positively. I think earlier today I was talking to a friend and I said my own way of facing my fears is by speaking verbatim to my fears. For example, if I have a task to deliver in the office and then the fear dawn on me and I begin to feel like I can't do that thing, I open my mouth and say to myself, hey, Dan, you can do this. Remember, you are good in this, you're good in that. Remember, you've executed this, you've executed that. Remember, there was a time you had that challenge or you had this challenge and you're able to conquer it. This one is not different. Go on and face it. You succeed. I usually put in my Facebook, on my WhatsApp status, like I'm my own cheerleader. I am my number one motivation because I talk to myself. So most times, if that fear comes to you after acknowledging them, now you have to challenge that negativity in that fear and now reframe it into positivity. Because in every challenge, there's an opportunity. In every troubles, there's still an opportunity. If you truly understand that fear, automatically you'll be able to deduce what is right in that thing. Sometimes, if not that we are even afraid, we wouldn't have discovered our potential. We wouldn't have discovered that we can do things, right? So, first is what? To identify your fears and acknowledge them. Secondly, is what? Challenge negative thoughts about that fears and reframe them positively. And then, thirdly, what? Take small steps towards facing your fears. You might not be able to face your fears immediately at once, right? You might need to take one step at a time. Excuse me. You might have to take one step at a time. At the moment that you are identifying your fears, you need to itemize them. We're not talking about you're driving through a bush, you are being afraid. No, we're talking about business here. So, in your business, what are those things you are afraid of? What are those things that are appearing challenging to you? Maybe because you don't understand them, or you've not experienced them and conquered them in the past, or in your preparation for that startup, you omitted them when you're doing your feasibility study or business plan development. So identify them, itemize them. To identify is not just to think. I always share this understanding, that anything that you need to put into reality beyond your thoughts and your thinking, write it down. Have a business journal. In your journal, if you are afraid of something, write that thing you are afraid of and identify, itemizing it either by hierarchy or the cause of that fear. Once you identify them, in front of everyone you identify, there's an opposite reaction. That is what changing that false evidence into reality. Instead of accepting the false evidence to become real, rather you are reacting to that false evidence with the reality of the status. Now, once you have identified them, you write the reaction they are supposed to do. Now, take it one step at a time as you face that fear. My product is not accepted in the market, or my product looks like what will not be accepted in the market. Why is the first question. Why do you think your product will not be accepted in the market? Because my competition has this and that. Your competition or your competitors cannot have everything. Now, what makes their product move? They have a good retail point, they have a good marketing, they have a good distribution structure, they are running promo, their price variance over the other markets, commodities are relatively cheap. Now you want to go against them in the market. There's always another way to take your product into the market and generate your revenue from that place. So once you're able to build them, take that step one by one and face your fears with it. It's very, very important. I have a quote from Ambrose Redmond. He said, "Courage is not the absence of fear, but rather the judgment that something else is more important than that fear. That success you drive, that success you aspire, that revenue you want to achieve. Maybe you've achieved 1 million revenue per month in your business, and your next goal is to do 3 million. How can somebody that is making 1 million revenue, 1 million naira revenue per month in the business, take an audacious challenge to do 3 million revenue per month? It might be fearful. Let's assume you sit down with your mentor and you give him a business review. Let's assume Mr. Hamza, the CEO of Fantel Business Academy, is your mentor, and you meet him and you said, "Sir, in the month of September, after all my operational cost and my running expenditure, I was able to arrive at 1 million naira total profit, net profit in my business. What do you think I should do next?" And he said, "Mr. Dan, I think as you're starting October, develop a plan, extend your model, build more structures, and ensure you bring your plan that will bring 3 million naira revenue by the end of October." First of all, like, Oga, I just did 1 million naira. I've not even done 2 million naira. You're asking me to do 3 million. So a fear might down on you. But at that moment, is that fear the reality? Does that mean it's actually impossible for Mr. Dan to do 3 million naira revenue in that business by the end of October? That is not totally impossible. You need to sit down and develop that model. Be courageous that whatever you've done within September to arrive at 1 million, double it. And there's a common saying in business of money: making the first 1,000 is harder than making the next 10,000. Making the first 10,000 is harder than making the next 100,000. Making your first 100,000 in business is harder than making your first 1 million naira. It is a sequence. Whatever you're able to do to get 1,000, double it, reintegrate it, sharpen it, and you'll be able to make a 10,000. So it is just in that order. That's why Ambrose Redmond said, "Courage is not the absence of fear." That means to deliver 3 million naira revenue is not just something that makes us fear, but what does it need is courage. So it's okay to be afraid, but you need to have courage against it. But rather the judgment that something else is more important than the fear. Rather than the fear you felt about how can I do 3 million from 1 million naira monthly revenue, that 3 million naira that you're going to add into your business, it is that 3 million naira that will become your first point of courage. That should be that thing that will motivate you. How many hours do you put into your job? What's your total expenditure? What is the resources you impute? How do you get your raw material? How do you source for manpower? All of that. Sit down, remodel them. You can only get better by doing something continuously. Whatever you do last month, at the end of the month, if you're able to do your retreat and ask yourself, what have I actually done that have generated this 1 million naira? In every opportunity, in every step of a business, no matter how much you've made, there's something that you can make more. Our former CEO where I'm working has this word to say always. You might celebrate the diamond, you might celebrate the gold, but understand that you also might have missed the diamond. The fact that you've made 1 million naira in your business turnover in a month, does that mean that's the highest that your business can actually generate? That 1 million naira might be the gold. You're celebrating with your team members. Guys, we've achieved a milestone of 1 million naira revenue, net profit in a month. But whereas that's just the gold. How about the diamond? So when you sit down and study the hits and the misses, that's like a SWOT analysis of how you arrive at the end of the month. How did you fare as a business owner within that month? You will understand that there are points that you'd have missed. There are some opportunities that you've not taken it very well. So all of that, by the time you sit down to develop it with your courage, you will definitely arrive at that thing that is better than your fears, which is what your 3 million naira revenue, like I was citing the example, right? So to go further, by facing and challenging your fears, we can begin to overcome them and build confidence. If you face fears once in a business, automatically, by the time you succeed from facing your fears, you'll discover that you become what? More motivated and become confident. By the time the next challenge comes up and you face it head on and you conquer with courage, now you feel like, oh, actually, those things that I'm actually being afraid of most times are not actually real. They are not what will actually pull me down. It's just me being scared to take the bold first step of facing it. No retreat, no surrender, military said. It's the same thing as a business owner. Once I've set my hand for this, I'll go on it. No matter the challenge ahead of me, I'll face it and make sure I deliver and I excel. So it's very important to what? Number one, as a recap to this, identify your fears and acknowledge them. Number two, challenge the negative thoughts because fears comes from our thought before the reality. And I've come across this in one of the book I read. Nothing comes to reality without first being built in our mind. Before that failure becomes a reality, we must have accepted that failure in our mind first. So we need to also change and challenge that negative thoughts and frame them to positivity, right? Small step, taking small step towards what? Facing your fears. And I crowned it last by saying, by facing and challenging our fears, we can begin to overcome them and build confidence. As we begin to round up, how do we turn this fear into motivation? How can something that I'm afraid of becomes the reason why I'm going forward? Fear faces us to our face. It's something that is trying to push us backward. Now, how can we now move forward with the fear that is supposed to pull us backward? It's something that might look ambiguous. You're asking me to run, but you're dragging my body backward, right? That's the same thing. But it is a real thing that can actually happen, right? From fear to fuel. It is both F's. Fear that's supposed to draw you backward is now fueling you forward. That's what turning your fears into motivation. Number one, to reiterate on this, use fear as a motivation to drive you forward. Once you are afraid of it, it means there's an opportunity there. Be it business, academic career, career path in the work environment, whatever it might be, there might be some level of fears that might come because a business owner, the fears he experienced might not be the same with a career man or a career lady. And the fear that a career man or a career lady will experience will not be the same with the fear that an employee, a salesman or a saleswoman will experience. So in each of these three categories of personalities, they all experience fears differently. So that thing you are afraid of, use it to motivate yourself to move forward. Because after that fear, which is like a wall, behind it is a result of success. Focus on the potential rewards and benefits. If it's not worth it, then there's nothing to be afraid of. If it's not worth it, then it wouldn't have been challenging. If making money was that cheap, then everyone that desired money would have made the money. Some have started business and yet the business failed. Some have tried doing an experiment 7, 10, 100 times. It didn't work out. But the last one worked out. Some backed up at the ninth hour and they said, Kai, wanang kaswan in number now. What it means in English is this business is not for me. They've given up. They've not even failed 10 times and they've already given up. And failure at every point in life, it's actually a step towards success. He that succeeds from failure retain and grow success better than he that succeeds with one trial. In fact, you cannot succeed 100% with one trial, even if it's a success. But he that has failed 7 times and did not give up, but yet keep pushing, that person's one success will crown your first success 10 times. Is a reality. I've seen it and I've experienced it and I've read about it in a lot of books, right? So it's important for us to what? Focus on the potential rewards and benefit after the fear. When you face it, ahead of it is what is a reward and benefit. Develop a growth mindset and learn from failure. I just finished explaining this failure and it comes up again. Develop what? A growth mindset. Let me speak a bit religious here. I listened to one of the teaching one of these days, and the man said, why do we think as human everything that God created in us function forward? Nothing in human body functions backward. Our eyes forward, our nose forward, our mouth forward, our ears forward, our hands forward, our leg forward. Why didn't God do our leg backward, our hand forward, our eyes one in front, one in the back? Because divinely, God created human being for forward, for progress, for achievement, for success. So even if we are to dissect it spiritually, human beings are all in the state of forward movement in life. You're doing business, forward. You're into career path, forward. You're working for another person in his organization, forward. We have to always move in that pace. That is why it's important. If you understand the nature in you after discovering yourself, you are developed what for a growth. You are developed what for forward, even from your creation as a person. So it's very important we should develop what a growth mindset and learn from failure. Never be afraid to fail, but do not fail woefully. Failure to plan is the same thing as planning to fail, because sorry, there's a reality in our state. When you wake up in the morning every day, do you just wake up and just find yourself in the toilet brushing your mouth, or just find yourself wearing clothes, or you just find yourself in a car going to the office? Each and everything we do from the moment we wake up from sleep, it is an intentional, responsive act. It is by choice you said, let me wear shoe before I go to ease myself. It is by choice that you said, I need to brush now so that I will brush before I take my bath. It is still by choice you said, no, today I need to wear kaftan because it's this day or it's that day. Oh no, I have a meeting somewhere. I need to wear a suit and a tie. Those are all intentional actions. So all of this is preparing yourself against what might lead to failure. But if you've done all of this, yet failure came due to facts of reality, either by society, by natural events and scenarios of life, then learn from it. Learn from it. What could you have done differently that would have mitigated this failure that you've experienced? By the time you've analyzed your failure and you learn from it, automatically you've grown. They said the first experience might be a mistake, but experience that same thing twice is not a mistake, it's intentional, because you intentionally ignored that first that happened. How can you stumble on a stone on a road to your house twice? Even without thought, you would have by mindset presume that I should not be walking close to this side in the night, even if I don't have a light. It's the same thing with failure. Anytime you've experienced it, understudy it, and respond or react to it is very, very important, right? I like adding cuts to each of my teaching, because those words are really, really intriguing if you look at it very well. Fear is a great teacher. It shows you what you need to work on. Teachers teach you how to do things. Fear gives you an experience of what to do automatically without you having to touch, experience, or learn it. Once fear is done on you, there's something in that place. Let's take, for instance, um, you're walking in the dark and you presume a shape of another person in that dark. What does it mean? Automatically, if you have to react to that or respond to that, you look around you. Is there any stick that I can hold in my hand? So that if that thing in that darkness is actually a person, I will hit it, I will hit that person with this stick. Or will you walk towards that thing that is presumed to be like a person in the dark without having to prepare? Do you understand? So automatically, what happened? That fear has taught you how to respond to intending attack that might come your way. So in that lack way, like I said, after developing your mindset of growth, you learn from every failure. So what did I say again? Fear is a great teacher. It shows you what to do, what you need to do to work on, right? And then by harnessing fears and using it as a motivation, we can achieve great things and reach our goals. It's very, very important and it's very, very key. Fear is a motivation. It's not a demotivation. In my introduction, I talked about fear of failure. Is it a motivation or a demotivation? Actually, it's a motivation. If you must grow forward, if you must develop, then you must be moving against every fear that might come your way. So harnessing fear and using it as a motivation will certainly put us towards achieving great things and reaching our goals in life and in business overall. Now, achieving success from failure, like we said in our topic, from fears to failure, from fears to success, right? Celebrate your successes and acknowledge your progress. I mentioned it earlier, at any interval that you experience fear, you've identified it and you react to it, and a success come out of it. It's very, very important that you celebrate that very success. Why? Because when you accept a reality of fear and react to it in such a way that it gave you that development from your mind into reality, a result comes out of it, you might forget it and you need to repeat it so that it can become a constant reaction from you. So at any interval that you reacted to fears and it gives you success, celebrate that success and acknowledge the progress. See, they said, why do lizards nod anytime they fell from the wall? Because nobody tells them well done, so they have to tell themselves well done. There's a common slang in the street. Say, you too, they try, tell yourself well done, right? So at any time you've experienced fear and conquered it, celebrate that success and acknowledge that progress. Acknowledge that I've had a fear and I've conquered it, and this is the success that came out of it. Continue to challenge yourself and push beyond your comfort zone. Once you said, me, I'll always work or do my business where I'll not experience fear, you're setting yourself for a failure. Fear is the reality of growth. What you are not afraid of, that means you're better than it. But if you want to grow to be better than your today, to be better than your yesterday, you must look at something that is better than you. Growth comes with fear. Moving forward comes with fears because they are challenges naturally. So if you must grow, then you must continually challenge yourself and push beyond your comfort zone. And then lastly, in that segment, surround yourself with supportive people who encourages and motivate you. They said you can never be, how did they put it now? They said if you count 5 people around you and all of them are fools, that you didn't count well is actually 6 people. You cannot be in a council of fools and not be a fool. You want to grow, you want to move forward, but you surround yourself with people that fear push them backward. They don't like challenge. They like living in their comfort zone. Sorry to put it this way, with due respect to all circumstances. I've experienced some people in my previous place of work that usually have that common saying that I like the radama one what about. I understand that reality, but you didn't go to work, you didn't drive your sales job, and you didn't earn your variable, and you're saying that God destined that you not earn. How can God destine you for failure? So imagine you are in a council of such people that have this kind of mindset. Automatically, when you fail, they will tell you, Baba, don't worry. That's how God wanted it. Because you've made that money. That money might even destroy you. So don't worry about this month. Next month, we'll give it a try. Whereas some people are facing their days hands on and heads forward. So it's very, very important to be careful of who you surround yourself with. You must surround yourself with people that will motivate you, people that will encourage you. That's why if you don't have a mentor today, you are lacking in your progress life. If you don't have somebody that have tried and failed, and later succeed, to tell you what it means to fail and succeed, you are missing. Apart from your peers that you will be interacting with to discuss and to learn from one another, have that mentor that have toiled that path and failed and succeed and is doing excellent there. I have to still say a great well done to our chairman, Mr. Hamza. I've known Mr. Hamza, sorry to bring this up, like for more than 7 to 8 years now, and I've witnessed his growth. Anytime I go to him, the conversations we've had, the things he puts with me, the things we do, I'm seeing future bright and bright anytime we sit down with him. Who do you sit down with? Who do you react with? Who do you discuss with? Some people, if you visit them, you can only talk about football, talk about social life and social activity, Facebook and TikTok. You hardly would hear someone tell you, I just bought that book or eat that frog. Have you read it before? No, you need to read it. Somebody that will ginger you to go and read something that will develop yourself. Oh, Think and Grow Rich. I've heard about that book and I'm going to buy it. Do you mind? Let's go and buy it together. Here we go. So someone around you that brings the best, that brings some reality to your development. Such people are what you need in life so that when your fears come, they are the ones to even motivate you when your strength fails you. It's very, very important. The wise man Winston Churchill said, "Success is not final. Failure is not fatal. It is the courage to continue that counts." I've actually had to use this quote to go and find that his movie and watch it. And I listened to exactly when he gave that speech to the military. Definitely in life, there will always come when you feel success has come, whereas that success is just maybe the beginning, or failure arises. And no matter how fatal is it, it's not the end that will put you down completely. But at that very moment, you need the courage to continue. It is you conquering every failure or you moving success to become your beginning for another greater success. You setting a bar and breaking that bar by yourself. That's what it means to succeed, to move and live in a growth path of life, right? By transforming fear into motivation and success, we can achieve great things and live in fulfilling life. Do you even have a purpose? Do you even have a goal? What do you live to, what do you define your 2025 for? In fact, we are already in the last quarter of the year. At the beginning of this year, do you have any plan? Do you have any goal or objective? Have you set yourself towards something? I had this experience some years ago, right? So at the beginning of one of these years, I want to improve my financial life. And I set a target that I want to close this year so with certain amount of money in a liquid cash. I had my reason why I needed to close it with a liquid cash. It was a tough one. I limited lot of my lifestyle. I have to push myself to do more work, take up more responsibility and jobs, extra activities to raise that money. And by the grace of God, at the end of that year, I was able to cross that year with that very amount I set myself. But to have that money wasn't the goal. Though it looks like a success, it wasn't the goal. The goal was for me to use that money to become my startup capital in the following year. So success, like Winston Churchill says, is not final. That I was able to achieve that target of liquid funds in my account, that I've achieved that, it is not the final, but rather it was actually the starting point of the new idea I want to harness in the next coming year. You understand? So it's very, very important that we take note of this. By transforming fears into motivation and success, we can achieve great things and live a fulfilling life. And then at the end of it, you make your journey a worthy one in life. We are transiting in life. Each and every day is expected for us to grow. I usually tell people, if from January 2025 to December 2025, your income is the same. You started 2025 January with 200,000 naira, either net profit from a business or 200,000 naira as a salary, and you're ending 2025 earning that same money. Have you asked yourself, what is the inflation rate on this country quarterly? What you're buying in Nigeria in January at 200 naira, are you still buying it in October at 200 naira? So if you're maintaining the same income, despite inflation is increasing your spending demand, are you actually progressing? We are retrogressing over time. So that's why it's important, as we sojourn into life, set a bar of success, face that reality and fears, and then grow over it. Right? So I'll give us some of the examples to demonstrate this, right? So J.K. Rowling is a struggling and with rejection and perseverance in publishing the Harry Potter. You know about this writer. How many times was Harry Potter submitted for a movie but was never acknowledged? The publishing was even rejected, but persistence and consistency with courage brought about success. Stephen King's experience with rejection and criticism, and how he used them as motivation to continue writing. He is one of the greatest writers till today in history. Time memorial, even before him, after him, his book again will keep writing, will keep speaking into development. And our great neighbor from South Africa, Nelson Mandela. We've all watched Sarafina and the story about the South Africans who used his fears and struggle to fuel the fight against apartheid and achieve great success. Imagine if he did not pick up courage against his fears to liberate his people as at that time. That's one of the things. To achieve success, we must face our fears and fight against it. And then the example of a business owner who faced fear and took risks to launch a successful startup. I think KFC. If you study KFC, the owner of KFC, at what age did he actually start KFC? And before KFC, what was he doing with his life? Things he have tried, business he has tried, establishment he have tried that all failed before lastly KFC came to reality. So it is very important that we should stay in touch with our fears. As I give a recap, sorry, 1 second. So as I give a recap of what we've learned today, for our introduction, I talked about how to overcome fears and achieve success in business. I give an illustration of fear is not our enemy. It is just a compass pointing us towards opportunity. Let's not forget that. And I also give us an illustration of the nature of fear on its own. That fear is natural response to uncertainty and threat, and fear can also be a motivation if harnessed correctly. I also talk about facing your fears, identifying your fears and acknowledging them, taking small and one steps at a time towards facing your fears. I also talk about fueling from fear, how you can build your fears to become the fuel that moves you forward. Use fear as a motivation, develop growth mindset, and learn from your failures. And then towards the conclusive part of this discussion this evening, I was able to discuss about at every fears that you've experienced and you've succeeded from it, you must make sure you celebrate yourself and acknowledge that progress. It is always one step at a time towards success. So fear is not the end of it. Fear is not something that is against any of us, but it's just a reality to things that is supposed to give us opportunity. Without fear, many of us wouldn't have become what we are today. Without fear, we might not have challenged the ability, the capability, and the potential in us. It is actually this fear that has made us who we are. Lot of us, any successful man you've watched or you've seen or you know, go and ask the person, sir, ma, do you experience fears in life? I will tell you for a fact. They will hold their mouth and tell you, every day I wake up with fears, but that fears become my motivation for that very day. This will be their words. This is the words that I've also received from many of my mentors that I work along with. So it is my desire that with all that we've learned this night and with all these engagements, each and every one of us here, either as a student, as a working class person, as a business owner, or intending to start a business, or an entrepreneur that is already running one, to understand that when fears come our way, it means there's an opportunity that is coming against us. Grab that opportunity and harness it, develop it until you have your result out of it. Thank you so much for listening. I hope we are blessed this evening with this discussion into turning fears into success, right? So thank you, moderator, for this opportunity. And thank you, Fantel Business School, for seeing me worthy to share with the great people of Fantel Business School this evening. Thank you very much. If there's any question, I'm available to take it up.
Wow, what a great talk. Thank you so much, Mr. Dauda, for this truly inspiring session. I believe all the participants have learned something new about fear and how to turn it into motivation and confidence in business. So like the facilitator said, we will now move into the question and answer segment. So if you have a question, please type it in the chat box. Or if you prefer to speak, you can raise your hands and I will invite you to speak. Okay, let us begin with our first question. Mr. Dauda, I hope you can see the question in the chat box.
Okay, let me go to the chat box. Sorry, okay. Sorry, 1 second. Okay. Okay. Mr. Habibu Abdu said, what practical strategies do you recommend for maintaining motivation where fear feels overwhelming, especially during critical business decision? Okay. So first of all, if you remember in my teaching, acknowledging fear on its own is a first step. Don't say you can never experience fear. And when it comes, accept it and acknowledge that this is a fearful something. Once you acknowledge that, now you need to find the opposite in that fear. And your question is specifically about decision in business. Critical decisions in business might vary, maybe due to your own nature of business or otherwise. For example, let me give you an instance. Your business is experiencing loss. You're losing money. But then your consultant told you to recruit an experienced person in one field or the other that can correct that business loss you're experiencing, but the cost of recruiting that experienced individual will take a chunk of your capital or operational expenditure. You might be afraid that if I should employ Mr. Bala to come and fit into this very role, that might, by assumption or by advice of the consultant, might bring the growth of this business. What if it didn't happen? And now, normally I'm paying the person on that seat 100,000 per month, and the person that is coming is demanding for 400,000. That's 4 times your current cost. It's going to cost you a lot in your business, but it is a critical business decision that you need to take because you want to bring your business back to track. You're asking me what are the practical strategies. See, number one, don't assume. Whenever you want to face your fears, don't assume. Identify those things. Identify the real what causes that fear. Identify them. By the time you itemize them, let's assume it's 3 points or 4 points, as the case may be. Every point you've identified, you must develop a reaction to it. If I'm to pay this person 400,000, and your fear is, if I pay him 400,000, what if this his idea that's bringing on board will not bring the success we design this business? What are the contingency plan? And let him put into check for you what are those things he is coming to do that will improve your state of business, even if it is in skeletal, because it is his idea. And for him to give you that idea, you must sign that contract with him to work for you at 400,000. Once you identify them, you walk through with them and execute each and every one of these points. Practical strategies that you need to take after identifying them, presenting the reaction to each of the things you identify, is put the model into action in response. Because when fear comes from our thoughts, it is against something in the reality. And we discussed in the teaching that behind every fear is an opportunity and success. So once you've identified them, you've developed your reaction to each and every one of them, you put it into check and put them in reality, you will find out that you develop yourself. I think I've taken, I taught in Fantel school one day, critical thinking and decision-making skills. I think I still have that material and I can still share with the school. You can get it from the moderator. Yes, I think I still have that material. So there are critical ways to think around every challenge. And there are things you must itemize and put them into practice whenever you want to take a conclusive decision. Because until you have understanding of how that fear comes and how you want to react to it, you might end up still building a reaction against that fears that might not be the real response that the fear needs. So it's very, very important to always identify the fear, itemize them, and prepare an opposite reaction to it. Like I said, to every action, there's equal and opposite reaction. The same thing with fears. Fear is the first action. Develop an opposite and equal reaction to that fear. And I believe once you're able to do that, you'll be able to drive into making a critical decision to that thing that you're trying to do in your business, right? And then to maintain motivation when fear feels overwhelming. To me, how I handle that now in reality, to me, how I handle to stay motivated is I don't believe in what will be will be. I believe in what I did not work on will be the way it wants. But what I want to happen is what I will work on. So at that very moment, I'm telling you this in sincere truth and honesty. What keeps my motivation up is I know that if I do A, I will see B. If I do B, I will see C. That I did not do A, I shouldn't expect B. And if I did not get C, I've not done even A. So accepting that I have responsibility to that outcome, keep my motivation up and in check. And it will help you no matter how overwhelming situation is. And always remember to stay calm. Your brain will never think right when you are agitated. Anytime fear dawn on you, stay calm. Stay calm. Take this word, stay calm. Wallahi, once you're calm, your brain will think right and you provide solution to that fear immediately. Never panic over anything. Never panic. So stay motivated, stay positive, and don't panic. And you'll be able to look at the fear, identify the root cause, and provide a solution and put them into action. I believe this will be able to answer you to a very large extent, Mr. Habibu.
Thank you so much, Mr. Dauda. I can see that the session is well understood. The participants are sending goodwill messages. Mariam Ahmad says, thank you for this wonderful presentation. It's like you know my problem. I gather courage today. And there
Yeah,
is
thank you,
another
Mariam.
one from Isa Ibrahim who says, what an incredible session. Your words spoke directly to the heart and reminded us of our potential. We are grateful for the inspiration and positive energy you shared. So it is
Thank you, Isa.
obvious that the session is well understood. So due to the time factor, I think we are ending the session now. Thank you once again, Mr. Daniel Dauda. On behalf of Fantel Business School, I want to sincerely thank you again for sharing your wisdom with us. And to our participant, thank you so much for joining and for engaging actively throughout the session. So with this, I say thank you all for joining and goodbye to everyone.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone. Have a good night.